Hi friends, welcome to PSC Collegiate English. Today, let us discuss yet another poem, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe was an American writer, poet, editor, and literary critic. He is known for his poetry, short stories, tales of mystery and macabre. He is a central figure of Romanticism. He is the inventor of detective fiction genre and is further credited with contribution to science fiction. Poe succeeded in creating influential literary theories and in demonstrating mastery of the forms. He favored highly musical poems and short prose narratives. Poe's source of happiness was writing poetry, and he also raised a short story in 1841. His dark, imaginative Gothic mysteries and tales heavily influenced the modern thriller. The theme of loss, which pervades much of Poe's work, can be linked to events of personal tragedy in his life. Coming to his works, some of the tales are The Black Cat, The Cask of Amontillado, The Fall of the House of Usher, The Gold Bug, The Mask of Red Death, The Oval Portrait, The Pit and the Pendulum, The Purloined Letter, The Telltale Heart. Coming to his other works, Annabel Lee, The Conqueror Worm, A Dream Within a Dream, To Helen, Tamerlane was his first play. Coming to the next, A Politician, that is his only play. The narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, that is his only novel. The Balloon Hawks is a journalistic hoax. The Philosophy of Composition, which was published in 1846, is one of his famous essays. Eureka is a prose poem. The Poetic Principle, The Lighthouse, in 1849 is Poe's last incomplete work. Poe was a forerunner of arts for art's sake. Poe's poetry and short stories greatly influenced French symbolists, who in turn altered the direction of modern literature. Poe's short stories appeared in Saturday Courier and yet another paper, that is Saturday Visitor. Heresy of dictation. Now, that is a term that Poe coined, and he meant his self-declared intention to create artistic ideas in a milieu that he thought overtly concerned with the utilitarian value of literature. He says that. So, what does he mean by the term heresy of dictation? So, that can be analyzed in 2 points. The first point is, a work must create a unity of effect on the reader to be considered successful. The second point is, the production of this single effect should not be left to the hazards of accident, but should to the minutest detail of style and subject be the result of racial deliberation on the poet. So if any work possesses these two qualities, we can say it has heresy of dictation. Okay, coming to the very famous poem, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volumes of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. It's some visitor, I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, only this and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here for evermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, it's some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. That it is, and nothing more. Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is, I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming, dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was broken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo muttered back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, somewhere louder than before. Surely, said I, surely, that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then, what there at ease, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. It's the wind and nothing more. Open here, I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, nor a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crust be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore, tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely on the placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered. Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird, and bust and door. Then, upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamp light glotted over, but whose velvet violet lining, with the lamp light glotting over, she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil. whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore. Desolate, yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore. Tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels named Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels named Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked up starting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out of my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming. All the lamp light over him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. So, coming to the facts regarding this poem. This is a very long poem, and it is this particular poem which has made Edgar Allan Poe very famous. So some of the famous facts related to this particular masterpiece is, there are 108 lines, there are 18 stanzas. We have to bear in mind the month and season mentioned in the poem, that is December, and it is winter time. Sometimes this is also asked, how many times the word Lenore is mentioned, how many times nevermore is mentioned. So Lenore is mentioned in the 2nd, 4th and 15th line, each twice, and nevermore is repeated 11 times. Poe wrote The Raven in 1844. It was first published on January 29, 1845 in the New York Evening Mirror. It became his most prominent poetic work and was reprinted and published many times after the date of first publication. Partly due to The Raven, Poe became highly popular author within contemporary American literary circle. The Raven appeared in numerous anthologies: Poets and Poetry in American, 1847, edited by Rufus Wilmot Griswold, and Cambridge Companion to Edgar Allan Poe. Poe's contemporary William Gilmore Simms named the poem about remembering. Poe's essay, The Philosophy of Composition, analyzes his own poem, The Raven, and discusses the circumstances of the writing and justifies his selection of the topic. The Philosophy of Composition was published in the April issue of Graham's Magazine, 1846. Poe attempts to present analysis of his own poem, The Raven, and to describe the circumstances of the composition. The author claims that he considered each aspect of the poem and he was completely conscious of conception of what to write. The unnamed narrator is wearily reading an old book on a bleak December night when he hears a tapping at the door of his room. He tells himself that it is merely a visitor. He is waiting for tomorrow to arrive because he cannot escape the sorrow over the death of Lenore, a woman he loved. The rustling curtains frighten him, but he decides it must be some late visitor, and going to the door, he asks for forgiveness from the visitor because he had been napping. However, when he opens the door, he hears nothing but Lenore, an echo of his own words. Returning to his room, he hears a tapping and reasons that it was probably the wind outside his window. When he opens the window, a raven enters and promptly perches above the bust of Pallas above his door. Its grave appearance amuses the narrator, who asks it for its name. The raven responds, "Nevermore." The poet does not understand the raven, the reply that the raven has given, but the raven says nothing else until the narrator predicts aloud that it will leave him tomorrow like the rest of his friends. The bird says nevermore. Startled, the narrator says the bird might have learnt this word from some unfortunate owner whose bad luck caused him to repeat the word frequently. Smiling, the narrator sits in front of the bird to ponder about the meaning of the word. The raven continues to stare at him as the narrator sits in the chair that Lenore will never again occupy because she is dead. The narrator then feels that the angels have approached and angrily calls the raven an evil prophet. He asks if there is respite in Gilead and if he will ever see Lenore in heaven, but the raven says nevermore. In the fury, the narrator demands the raven to go back into the night and leave him. Again, the raven says nevermore. The narrator feels that his soul will never leave the raven's shadow. He believes that he is doomed. The poem is inspired by Talking Raven in the novel Barnaby Rudge, A Tale of Riots of 80 by Charles Dickens. Now, this might be a question, or the candidates may be asked to write about the sources which inspired Edgar Allan Poe to write this poem. So one of the work is Barnaby Rudge. This is written by Charles Dickens. In that there is a talking raven. Also, Poe borrows the complex rhythm and meter of Elizabeth Barrett's poem Lady Geraldine's Courtship and makes use of internal rhyme as well as alliteration throughout the poem. Now, the raven is a narrative poem. The theme of the poem is undying devotion. Even though the lover is dead, the lady love is dead, the lover still mourns her loss. The narrator experiences a perverse conflict between desire to forget and desire to remember. He seems deriving pleasure by focusing on loss. Christopher F.S. Maligek suggests the poem is a type of elegiac paraclositron, an ancient Greek and Roman poetic form consisting of lament of an excluded, locked out lover at the sealed door of his beloved. Some of the figures of speech used in this poem are alliteration, doubling, dreaming, dreams no mortal ever dreamed. Assonance. Assonance is when the vowel sound in a series of words is repeated. The rare radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore. That A sound, if we notice, the vowel sound, if we notice, there assonance is used. Rhyme. It is only stock and store, till his songs one burden bore. Onomatopoeia is the musical quality of words, tapping, rapping, rustling, fuller crocking. Personification, the sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. There are many allusions that are used in the poem. So, bust of Pallas refers to reason. Athena is the goddess of wisdom. So, this particular raven is perching above the bust of Pallas of Athena. That means it is shadowing or enshadowing the reason or the reasoning capacity of the narrator. Night's Plutonian shore refers to afterlife. Pluto is the Roman god of underworld. Raven is a central symbol, a non-reasoning creature capable of speech. Now, this particular concept of talking raven or the symbol of raven is taken from these three works. In Norse mythology, Odin possessed two ravens named Hugin and Munim, representing thought and memory. There is yet another reference to Hebrew folklore where Noah sends a white raven to check conditions while on the ark. The raven doesn't return immediately. Therefore, it is turned black and being forced to feed on the carrion. In Ovid's Metamorphosis, Apollo punishes the raven by turning it black for delivering a message of lovers' unfaithfulness. Nepenthe refers to a drug mentioned in Homer's Odyssey which erases memory. Balm of Gilead refers to the book of Jeremiah, a resin used for medicinal purposes. Elijah was from Gilead to have been fed by ravens during the period of drought. The raven is one of the early examples of Gothic literature. Raven stands for mournful, never-ending remembrance. Poe selected the word nevermore because the long O of the most sonorous vowel in construction and with R as the most producible consonant. Now, this can also be a question why Poe selected this particular word, nevermore. The rhyme scheme used in this poem is ABCBB. So dear friends, we have come to the conclusion, the ending of the poem. We have analyzed the poem as such. Please try to read the poem to recall the lines, because questions can be asked as quote or ERC, where you are supposed to explain where the particular line comes and what that means. Also give importance to the allusions used, and also if possible try to read philosophy of composition, because the Poe himself has analyzed his poem in philosophy of composition. Thank you so much friends, keep learning.